Okay, so I know the last goal that we have been talking about with you is basically implementing small groups. And that's kind of the last big goal that we have been working on with you. And I know that I've been coming into your classroom and you've been working with small groups so much to where I've been seeing you doing small group instruction just about every single day. So now that you have your small groups, I want you to tell me about the impacts that small groups have had in your instruction.
As far as like the effects of it,
Yeah, like just how has it changed your class? How's it working?
it, as far as doing the whole group, sometimes you can easily misinterpret what the kids understand and what they don't understand. So they'll say that they understand something, and they may be looking at the buddy's paper next to them. But when you're doing the small group and you're watching actually what they're doing, you can actually gauge more what they're thinking, as well as like what misconceptions they have. So it's weird because some teaks, I have them grouped in high, medium, and low, but it's weird because some teaks they may be low, and then another teak they may be high. So just trying to keep everything in perspective when I have them grouped in the classroom, it makes it it's busy. It's very busy, but you get more in tune with what they know and what they don't know.
So it's helping you get to know each student better and kind of knowing knowledge-wise. Okay, perfect. So that's good. I want you to keep it up and just focus on fine-tuning your groups and keep working on that small group instruction. But I'm glad that you have went ahead and started implementing that, and I just want you to keep it up and keep working on that. So after the last time that I was in your class today, I want to dive in and talk about internalizing your lesson plans. And I know for you, you talked about a big part of what you're struggling with is the reading comprehension part.
And the rigor.
And the rigor of your students working on your problems. So when I'm talking about internalizing lesson plans, I look at this as saying that you internalize and you rehearse the key parts of your lesson, including the I do and any key instructions or questions. So as far as you're planning this far out, that's what I really want you to try to focus on. You're going to focus on internalizing your lesson plans.
When you say internalizing, what do you mean? Just practice?
So the internalizing is going to come from practice. And when I'm saying internalizing, that's thinking about how does this part of my lesson look? What questions am I going to ask when I do this part of my lesson? What can I anticipate my students responding? And then kind of, exactly what is the end result from the plan that I'm creating. And so for you,
talking about like just begin with the end in mind type of stuff.
Kind of beginning with the end in mind, but pretty much scripting out each step and actually seeing it in your head, and how everything that you are going to do is going to drive them to mastery with what you're working with them on. So I think a good part for you to begin with is with your problem of the day and your reading comprehension. So talk to me when you talk about reading comprehension. I just want you to tell me a little bit about the gap that you've been experiencing with reading comprehension.
With my higher kids, they tend to be more critical thinkers. Like they'll look at the problem and instead of just saying, okay, what's the answer, they'll actually say, well, what are they asking of me? Like, what do they want me to do? What do they want me to think about? With my medium kids or my bubble kids, they more so just look at the code words. I know the code words well. Trying to get them to understand it. Just because the code word is in there doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're doing in that problem. And then with my low kids, just basic computation is the struggle.
Okay, so you got a wide range of what your students are doing when they're looking at problems. You have your high kids that are actually looking at the problem and thinking about what is the problem asking me to do. Then you say your medium kids are kind of just like looking at keywords, and they kind of maybe making assumptions and guessing off of keywords. So a lot of them probably end up missing the questions because they're just making assumptions instead of really comprehending. And then you have your low kids who are just looking at the computation and they're looking at numbers and pulling numbers out.
And start doing stuff.
Okay, so now that we identified what the gap is, what I think your next action step should be, which is going to lead to you internalizing your lesson plans, is when you're doing your problem of the day, I want you to think of some reading comprehension questions that you want your students to ask when you're doing the reading comprehension questions. So
like a systematic type.
Yeah, just like a systematic thing. So when you put your problem of the day up on the board, have them just read the problem for comprehension. Don't think about computation. We don't need to think about computation right now, because right now I just need you to understand this problem. So I think that's one step that's going to help you, and obviously eventually it'll help them get the right answer, but it'll drive you when you're doing that reading comprehension part. So I want that to be your next action step. So when you're doing your planning and in your plans, you need to think about those questions that you want to ask. So what I want you to do today is I want you to look at one of these problems, and I want you to think to yourself. I just want you to take a second, and I want you to look at this problem, and I want you to write down 3 questions that you can ask your students that's going to help them with reading comprehension. And so, for example, one question I might ask when I'm looking at this, and remember, we're not thinking about computation because right now we're just focusing on reading comprehension. The first question I might ask is, what is this question asking me? And so that might be my first question. And you need to have your kids actually annotate that.
Now, when
or make a statement or share with somebody.
When we do this, a lot of times they just regurgitate their question. Like, say for instance, it says, which equation can be used to find F, the number of football cards Josh has now? Well, when I say, well, what are they asking me to do?
Okay.
You know, they'll say, well, which question can be... Yes, I know that. I know what the question is. What are they asking me to do, though?
Okay,
you see
so
what I'm saying?
When they're doing that, then that's when you're doing your planning, is you have to think of what is the next question that I'm going to ask, because I know that they are big on restating what the question is, but what's the next question that I can ask to drive them home to the information that I'm trying to get to?
Okay.
So I want you to just take like 3 minutes, and I want you to look at that. I want you to write down 3 questions.
You give me an exit ticket?
Yeah, okay. I want you to write down 3 questions that you can ask them to help them with reading comprehension, and reminding them that we're not worrying about computation. So don't worry about numbers. You might as well not even look at numbers. You working on with that first problem?
Not the second one.
Second one. And maybe, let me tell you this, and maybe not just what is this question asking, but what is this question talking about? Because they do need to think about what a question is talking about. So when I read this, it says Mark had a football. So I think they at least need to be able to tell you that it's talking about, a kid with some football cards, what this kid is doing with some football cards, maybe any other people that are introduced to the problem, because then you have Josh. Let's talk about Mark and Josh. And so they need to understand all those aspects of that question, because that's still going to help them have a deeper understanding of what the question is. Every 3 questions? Okay, so what's one of the first questions you come up with?
I think I would say, how could I use pictures or visuals to break this paragraph down?
Okay.
The reason I say that is because for reading comprehension, what they tend to do is read the whole paragraph and then try to go straight into solving the problem, where they haven't kind of internalized the paragraph. So one thing that we're working on now is having pictures, visuals, to help them see the problem kind of like in their face. So say, for instance, instead of reading the whole paragraph, Mark had 45 football cards. Well, how could I use pictures to break that paragraph down? That first sentence, I would draw one card and put 45 on it, and I might label Mark. And then every sentence after that, I would try to use that visual to, add on to that visual, like kind of like building the picture out of the paragraph. And then afterwards, I would say, once I have all of that important information, the second question would probably be, what is considered important information out of my picture? So I would have my picture, and I would say, now that we have our picture, what is the important information?
And I like both of those questions, but I'm thinking that I probably would ask that second question, or what is considered your important information. I'd probably ask that before I ask them about drawing a picture. Because first of all, I think they need to have all of the information resonate with them in their head. And then, once they have all the information, then they can think about how they can draw that into a picture. Because I don't think, because a lot of times when we give kids a strategy like that, they'll think, oh, I need to draw a picture. And the first thing they're thinking about, they're not thinking about information. They're thinking about drawing a picture, and they're just trying to draw a picture. So the thing is, the first thing is, what is considered the important information.
Then I got my picture question, which is number 2 now, and then number 3 would be, what strategy could I use to solve this problem?
Okay, and then what strategy can I use to solve this problem? And so when you're doing this and you're going through these questions as a class, so when you do your problem of the day, you put the problem up and they usually just work it and then you discuss it afterwards?
I started doing that didn't work. So what I kind of do now is they do the problem, but instead of me just working it, I kind of do like a think aloud, and they can't read in unison. So I have one group read the first sentence, and then I have them tell me what that sentence means.
Okay.
Then we do that. How can we break this picture down? Then the next group does the same thing with the next sentence. So everybody's listening, but everybody's kind of doing a different part in it. And then I kind of do a think aloud, or maybe like, well, what are we doing to, what are they asking us to do? Or what, I kind of do each sentence, and then we usually work it out together. And then when I don't do the problem, we kind of work it out together, because I want to do more of the thinking now. Like, I want them to be doing more of the thinking, as opposed to me just saying, okay, y'all, this is right, this is wrong.
And you may have to start off, with these questions, and you might want to model that for them, the first couple of times. And then, so they see exactly how you're going through that think aloud process, so they know, I know when Mr. Tenison did this, and he was thinking it out loud, he got to say, who is this problem talking about? Well, this problem is talking about Mark and Josh. And they had to do something with football cards. And one of them had twice as many cards as the other.
This concept right here, this twice as many. For some reason, they think twice as many means add 2. So I had to break down.
And so that's going to be another part that you want to stop and think about. So I know this problem says twice as many. So if I know that it's twice as many as something, what operation, because that was actually one of my questions that I wrote down that I might use to say, I need to think about what operation would I use to solve this problem.
Can we steal that question?
So you thinking
operation?
Yeah, what operation might I use to solve this problem? And you know what? That's one thing that I know Miss Collett does, is she's drilling them, and when they say that, what are the key words? So if I know those key words, what operation do I use? And she actually has an anchor chart in the back of her room or something, and it has like key Probably you might have one too, but I know it's her kids when they're doing it. They're always looking back at that chart because I see them because they're looking for those key words. So
but see, my issue. That's why I say with my bubble kid, with my high kids more so, they can critical think through that. But with my bubble kids, they don't read, so they'll just skim through the paragraph. Okay, twice as many. That means multiply.
Okay.
This is what I'm doing.
So what they probably...
Let me ask, are you expecting them to do something to show their analysis or annotation of that word problem before they even start solving? I mean, are you checking to see, everyone's read the problem and then you are monitoring the pen in hand and you're saying, okay, as I'm monitoring, I'm looking for words underlined. I'm looking if you're going to use cubes. Yeah, are you using that?
I talked to some people who've gone like to professional developments on that stuff, and they said that it doesn't work. They said that because I was using that, and they were saying that
what doesn't work.
That the cube strategy. They were saying
I've heard kind of mixed things about that too.
They were saying it doesn't work. So I'm kind of
what I'm suggesting to you, and I think what Ms. Kendrick is trying to get at, if these are going to be my 3 questions, and this is what I'm going to use to help my students comprehend those, I may put those questions up, and those kids need to annotate.
It's systematic stuff.
Yes, and you need to go by, and you, like you said, with your pen in hand, and just go by and quickly check off what they're writing. You might want to stop and talk to them, and that kind of lead into another action step later, how you want to walk around and check that. But for this purpose, when you implement those questions, you probably want to go around and, have them annotated.
Okay.
And because if that strategy doesn't, have you tried the strategy yet?
That was all I did last year, and then I started it on them this year, but then people who've gone to professional developments was like, no, they just need to read and think. So I'm more on the reading and thinking.
Well, I know that everything doesn't work for everybody, but we have to find out what works for our kids, and so. And you won't know until you try it.
Until I try it.
And then if it doesn't, then of course, it's not the only way to do it. But we do have to have a strategy. We do have to hold them accountable for it because our data is not looking too high. First grade math. Okay.
So, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and move us along. So, I want you to tell me what action steps do you need to take to start internalizing your lesson plans so you can drive reading comprehension. And that's basically restating exactly what we did today and what you need to implement in your class going forward.
Well, you saying what do I need?
What are the action steps? What do you need to do to make this happen?
This is actually pretty good. I guess maybe like since we're working on this, maybe I know y'all already do this, but like maybe another walkthrough to see, because sometimes what I see is not what you guys see. So
I'm gonna have a follow-up. I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, but not a follow-up meeting. Like a follow-up where you actually come in and see it.
No, I'm gonna have a follow-up observation where I'm looking for this specific team, and I'll tell you what it is. So
that's it.
For you, I'm saying specific steps. So for me, what I would say is my step number 1 is to look at my problem of the day. Step 2 would be, after you look at your problem of the day, what do you need to do? Think about what questions you're going to ask to help your kids better comprehend the question. That would be your step 2. And then step 3 would be what you need to have the students do while they're answering those questions. They need to annotate. So what's your 3 steps?
Problem of the day, good questions, and annotate.
Okay, so that is going to help you with internalizing your lesson plans, and those are your steps. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to practice. So I'm going to pretend to be one of your students. This is going to be the problem of the day. And what I want you to try to do is just what you're gonna do is we're gonna go through the problem, and you're gonna ask me those questions, and I'll try to give you some answers that the kids might give you, just to see how you respond. And it's just gonna be like a quick rehearsal. And then after that, I'll give you a date that I'm gonna come in and want to see you doing this next week.
You gonna videotape?
Yeah, I'm gonna videotape it. It's gonna take
This
it.
gets better.
Yes.
You want to go to the board, or you just want to do it right here? Would it make you feel like you're in your element? Like
I'm in my element in small groups.
Well, then we'll leave the camera up too.
Whole group. Everybody, we understand. And my DOLs come out with 50%.
All right.
Let me say something about that since you said that. You said that because we've seen you in small group. So how do you progress monitor when you're with a group of students and everyone else doing their work? How do you progress monitor them?
Let's talk about that after the video.
Okay, sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay. All right. So Mark had 45 football cards.
Stop. Okay. So after every sentence, tell me what's going on right there. Who are we talking about?
We're talking about a guy named Mark and
Okay.
how many football cards he has.
So he has something, and he has football cards. We said that he has 45 of them, right?
Yes.
Okay, read the next sentence for me.
Josh had twice as many football cards as Mark.
Stop. So they introduced somebody new to us, right?
Uh-huh.
Who do they introduce?
Josh.
Okay, so we know we have Mark and we have Josh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So what does Josh have?
It says Josh had twice as many football cards as Mark.
So what is twice? What do you think twice as many means?
Add 2 more.
Add 2 more?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So one thing I want you to write down in your notebook is twice as many basically means you can add the same number twice or you can multiply it by 2. So, and then I will show you to write it down basically like this.
Okay. So twice as many means you said to add the number 2 times or to multiply by 2? Okay.
So to break this down to you before it gets harder, we're going to keep it simple. I would say if you had a job and you make $5 a day, and I have the same job and I make twice as much money as you, how much money do I make at the end of the day? If we use
Times
twice as
2.
much. So I would use your 5 times
2.
So how much money would I have at the end of the day?
5 times 2 is 10.
Good. So now all we're doing is we're using the same concept. Just because the numbers get bigger, the rules stay the same. So instead of using 5 times 2, Josh has twice as many as Mark. Does that make sense? So how much does Mark have?
45.
And Josh has what?
Twice as many.
So Josh needs to do what?
45 times 2.
Great. Put that down.
Okay, so hold on.
Put that down.
No computations. Remember,
Okay.
we just reading for
Oh,
understanding.
yeah. See,
So we
what
don't
I'm
do any
saying.
computation.
Got me.
Just reading for understanding.
So just for
So
understanding.
just try to remember, we're not going to do any computation. So I think you did well explaining it, but don't. So that last part, you don't want them to do any computations yet.
Okay. So read the next sentence for me, please.
Josh then bought 5 more football cards.
Stop. Okay, so Josh, something happened in that sentence. What happened? Josh did something.
Josh bought more cards.
Okay, so if he bought something, what do you think that means? He's adding to it, he's taking away, he's multiplying, or he's dividing?
He's adding to it.
Okay, so he added what?
5 more cards.
Okay, so we know that we're going to be adding 5 somewhere in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this next sentence is kind of long. I just want you to read all the way up until the first comma.
Which equation can be used to find f?
Stop. So are they asking us to find an answer? What are they asking us? To find an answer?
They're asking us to find an equation.
An equation. So we have the answer and we have the equation or the problem or the expression, right? So we're not looking for an answer. We're looking for an equation. Now, keep reading the last part of the sentence.
The number of the football cards Josh has now.
So, whose football cards are we looking for?
Josh.
Well, we're not looking for Mark and Josh?
No, we're just looking for Josh.
Okay. Are we looking for Mark?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure so that way when I'm trying to figure out my problem and put things together, I know exactly what I'm looking for, right?
I'm looking for Josh.
Okay, great. So now,
So what I would do now is I would probably go to these questions and I would say, now I want you, now that we've gone through it, I want you to annotate these questions in your notebook. Because now we read through the question and we comprehended, so now I need you to annotate and I need you to answer my 3 questions.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you recommend that I post them, or could that be a part of my problem of the day where I have them write them every day? Because if I want it to be kind of ingrained in them.
So if you want these to be the 3 questions that you answer with every problem, you can just post those. And I mean, that way when they're working on their problem of the day, they can go ahead and start annotating, and that'll save you time. And that's that'll be kind of the advantages of using the same 3 questions over and over again. And I think it'll be easier for you when you start monitoring what you're looking for, because you already know these are the questions that I use every single day, and I've already looked at the problem, so I know what key information that I'm looking for when I'm checking those questions.
Okay.
All right. Does that sound more comfortable for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of already doing it. It's just adding a little bit more
to it,
spice to the gumbo.
Okay. So now we've taken it live. You understand that you are going to internalize your lesson plans by creating questions that are going to drive your kids to comprehension with the problem of the day. So next week on Monday,
Miss Wesley's supposed to be doing something in my class on Monday.
Okay. So Tuesday.
Evaluation or something.
So next week on Tuesday, I'll come in to do follow-up on you. And since it's going to be problem of the day, it's going to be at the beginning of one of your classes. I don't know exactly which class, but I'll look at the schedule and just expect me to come in.
So it'll be with the problem of the day.
And I'm going to be looking for you to look at your questions. And also, if you want to, you can go ahead when you put that in your lesson plans. If you want to go ahead and start embedding those questions in your lesson plans, then we can look at them and we'll see them in your lesson plans.
Okay.
But if you're going to use those 3, I mean, you can use those and just.
Well, I just want to. This was kind of on the spot, so I want to see if it applies to different teaks before.
And then you can adjust the questions.
Then I can adjust the questions.
All right. So everything good, clear?
Yes.
All right.